Welcome to Rugby Uncovered. This week we speak to Anne-Marie Kortas. She's a volunteer for the German Women's Rugby Association. So, welcome to the show, Anne-Marie.
Hello.
Hello there. Right, so we would love to know more about the sport of rugby in Germany. Tell us a bit about yourself first and how you first became involved in rugby.
I started playing about 10 years ago, so I was in my early 20s. I actually started playing in Costa Rica for one of the countries, which is not so famous for rugby. But I was there on exchange and I was looking for a new sport, and a friend took me along and I loved it. When I moved back to Germany, started playing here, and I've been playing ever since and loving it.
And so what is it that you do in the world of rugby? So tell us about your job.
My normal job is that I work for a ministry here in Berlin, but my volunteering is for the German Women's Rugby Association. So I'm the vice president here, and what we do is we generally organize the season for the players, both 7th and 15th, and but we also have some kind of supervision over the 15th national team. So we make sure, that they get some funding and that they get to play. And of course, we also try to think of development of the women's rugby here to make sure it actually keeps growing. And
right.
So it's a lot of meetings and talking and calls right now.
Absolutely. And obviously that could be a full-time job, right? Because we want it to expand. We want it to be big enough to be playing games with the English and other counterparts.
Oh, that'd be fabulous. But I think for now, we're a bit far away from that. So we do have a few full-time officials in the rugby board and the union, but it's only a few, and we're lucky that the men's, like the 7th team, both female and male, they're supported financially, and so we have a few, like the coaches and stuff, who can overlook them full-time. However, my job, I would say, is on top of my normal job.
Yes, absolutely. Must make it very difficult to do that. So here in the UK, we have the Premier 15s, and that comprises of 10 teams of the top-tier women's rugby. What is the equivalent there, and how many teams do you have?
In difference to many countries, we both have a league for the 15th and the 7th team. So the series goes throughout throughout the year. That we have the season, which they play at the same time. For the 15th women, we currently have about 6 teams. We're hoping to have 7 or 8 teams for starting in September if we get to start. And for the 7th league, we have about 45 teams who are playing. So as you can see, 7th here is in that sense a lot more popular and bigger than the 15th side.
So that brings me on to my next question about how you've seen changes in the game since you've started your role, because it's becoming certainly more and more popular in the UK, and we'd imagine that would be the same elsewhere in the world.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It has been growing here. I mean, we're still a small country, especially compared to England and the big rugby nations, if we look at our numbers. But it's definitely been growing. And what we see is that especially the interest in 7s rugby has been increasing a lot. So you see a lot of teams popping up in, for us, rather random cities who just decide, we're like 7-10 girls, let's start a team. And that's fabulous. That's really, really great because it means we just throughout the country get to spread more. And and so that's something which we hope we can keep developing, because we need a lot of girls and women here to make sure that we at some point might get to the level that England is at.
And how do you think that could be done? What would be the best way to promote rugby in Germany, do you think?
There's a lot we can do. And I think, first of all, what we're trying to focus on now is the retention of the players we have. As our numbers, our members, we don't have that many teams and girls playing. We really need to make sure that the ones who are interested stay really, really interested and, keep developing, so that they get a lot of games, and that, the ones who are aiming for the national team, that they get great strengthening training and also other kinds of coaches so that our national team stay strong and get stronger. But besides that, I think what we really need to work on is making sure that we have more girls who pick up rugby. Because we see here in Germany that on the women's side, lots of women start rugby through their university studies. And even though that's great, it also means that, especially if you look at it more professionally, they start, and by the time they really figured out how the game works, I mean, they're getting older or might decide, to change life and work on something professionally. So it would definitely be focusing on having more girls interested and, just making sure we get more players involved.
Yeah, I mean, indeed, we'd like to see more players, stars, as it were, being featured in the media. We've interviewed some players who said, when we saw other players playing, that made them want to play. The more we can get it into our media, the more we can get it onto our TV screens, the more it will encourage women to play and think of it as an option rather than just seeing a lot of men playing all the time, and also to balance it with the amount of football and other sports that are played and shown.
Oh, yeah, I definitely agree. And for us, it's actually been a novelty seeing rugby on TV here in Germany, because the way the TV system works here is more that we tend to have a lot of channels which are rather free. And I think about 2 years ago or something, we had the first ever rugby game ever shown on TV.
Really?
So, but this has and the last World Cup, which was just in Japan, there we could really, it was shown on TV and you just saw that the media started talking about it. And so that definitely really helped. And I agree with having role models. And so I think you're also right saying that it should be an option besides football. I think for rugby, what is really difficult here in Germany is also that we're competing with a lot of other sports besides soccer, because we have, in Germany, volleyball, judo, handball, these are really, really big sports here as well. And so, we're actually, trying to compete with them first, and then we go after football. I agree with being shown on television. And I think also, besides that, I think what would make it really attractive for especially the children to get interested in rugby is just seeing it locally, more often. So, when there is, an event in town and you have the local soccer team doing something or the local volleyball team, that you also have a local rugby team showing something. And then that way it just becomes simply a sport which more people know about, because for now we're really a niche here. I mean, the community is really tight-knit and really, really incredible. But I think we need to get the word out there and make sure that the girls and women see rugby as a future sport the way I do it.
So as much as we'd also love Germany to be playing more rugby and competing with us, do you think there should be more coordination among countries to further that?
It always helps, I guess, learning from other countries and making sure we exchange the tactics, not the tactic of playing, but of training and how to develop it is definitely really helpful. We've been very, Rugby Europe has been very supportive of Germany, I have to say that. The German Rugby Union has struggled financially a few years, and they've always tried to help us to make sure that our teams can play internationally and that we keep in the league. Of course, I think what we need to do is simply also learn from other countries how they manage to develop strong female teams. So, for example, if I look at Brazil, which isn't a rugby country, a rugby nation, but they've managed on the circuits and, have an impact. So I think would be great, to learn more.
Do you still get time to play yourself?
I do, yeah. I play for a local rugby club here in Berlin, which is called the Rugby Club 03 Berlin. And I love it. We only play sevens, but I'm a big fan of sevens, so that's great. And right now we're as everyone in this world, kind of waiting for rugby to restart. But
yes.
but it's been, I definitely really enjoy it. And it's also the reason I'm passionate about my volunteering as well, because I can see the way rugby is played here and how different teams react, and how it's just really important to so many girls and women to have these opportunities and see people grow through the sport. And
Yeah, definitely. Brilliant. Thank you, Anne-Marie. Over to Tom.
Anne-Marie, hi. Thank you for that. You made a couple of points ago about judo, which I'd completely forgotten about in Germany. It's big, it's huge. So it's not so much the cultural element of German women and girls not fancying being bashed about in a sport. It's publicity you need. It's speaking with the people who are in the game and showing it on the telly, I guess.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think judo is probably the sport basically every kid did. So I actually competed in judo quite competitively for about 8 years as well. And I know quite a few girls and women who've done that. And also, I mean, handball is also quite an intense sport in that sense. Yeah, so I agree. I think it's simply being visible in all kinds of layers, which are needed. And what helps with that is definitely having a strong national team, or having strong national teams, both on the 15th and the 7th side. Because if we manage to have a good or great level there, we will attract more sponsors, and with sponsors comes visibility. So, and then we can extend into the more into the width of the teams, I would say.
Yeah, and as long as kids understand that 7s and 15s, they are different games, because you see the 7s in the Olympics, but one moves fairly seamlessly into the next once you started one.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I think, as I mentioned before, I do think that 7s for us is a blessing that it's now in the Olympics, and that it is being shown so much also like that through World Rugby and having the HSBC 7th circuit. That really, really helps, because it's just, I think 7s, especially to young women, is currently, it seems to be more attractive here in Germany. But of course, like, you need both teams, and like 15s, the 15s teams here are super strong as well, and seem to be also they tend to win the 7s German championships quite often. So as you say, you move from one to the other.
Another point you made earlier, in which we've touched on in the last couple of weeks, Paul and I, the proposed law changes that we believe will be implemented in the next couple of months, or before the new season starts, they all seem to be eminently sensible to me in terms of, from your perspective, attracting women to play the game, because they are going to make it safer. They're going to make it less physical is the wrong word, but less dangerous, I think, in general.
Oh, yeah. I agree with that. I think having the laws twitched and twisted in a way to make sure that we hopefully have less injuries, and we learn our lessons also from sports who might not control these kind of things so much, will definitely be helpful. And it's also then easier to convince parents. But yeah, generally, I also think that having a game which is quick and for runners will help. But on the other hand, I mean, I also quite like the idea of rugby just being a sport for everyone, right? And for no matter what size and shape you're in, you can
Sure.
fit in. And so, yeah.
That should include, as we've said, fast, wiry kids, as well as the big, heavy middleweight boxer size ones. But also the proposed reduction in the number of substitutes can make the game slower in a sense, because people will be more tired, and it'll open up more space for those that can think their way through, as well as bash their way through.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree. And and I think it will, as you say, it will make it more attractive to different kinds of players. And I think it's also going to be interesting to see then the way that the coaches of the teams can adapt to the rules, and to make sure that, their players get the way they're handled, like that they can play well depending on who they are. Yep. But it's going to be interesting to see what it will do here, because for now in quite a few leagues and teams we play competitively, but also very friendly, that we do substitute a lot, not only within our team, but between the teams. So in the region I play in, it's really normal that between games I get asked, or like to ask for my team, who we would, if we have a player spare who would like to play for another team. So I think even though we might not be able to substitute as much in our own team, then we'll just play for someone else to make sure we get enough games played within a day.
That's nice. It gives a friendly aspect to it as well as a competitive one.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think this is something really, really important for German women's rugby, is that we are super competitive when we are on the pitch, but we all know, being such a small sport, we need to support each other. And so we're, trying to always find a way that the needs of all the different teams and people are catered to. So you also see a lot of changes within our local, the system we play the league. Like, it will change basically every year, just to make sure that we cater to the needs of all the different kind of teams. And it's definitely a very supportive community, and very tight-knit as well. So maybe as an anecdote to that, we unfortunately had to retire or cancel the European Championship for the 15th national team at the beginning of this year, which was a big blow, because we wanted to play, of course, on the European level, but we had no funding. And so we decided to do a crowdfunding as the association, with support of the 15th team. And it was incredible, the amount of feedback we got. And within I think about 2 weeks, we managed to raise about 12,000 euros. And the community was just really there, making sure that our national team can still play, even though we might not have the sponsors and the funding right now. And I think this is something which really speaks for the values of the German rugby. And I think it's the same all over, because we actually get a lot of positive feedback from other European nations who really wanted to play against Germany. And so it's something really great here.
Fantastic. Is there this is my ignorance coming across, is there a pan-European competition that goes on regularly amongst you guys?
Yeah, so on the 15th, there is a European Championship, which will play, and then you have different tiers. And right now, so our competitors would be Spain or Russia, Belgium, the Netherlands, for example. And we have the same on the 7th circuit. So then you have the Grand Prix series, and then the Trophy series, for example. And so while the 15th games will be played in the winter, 7th is then played in June, more or less. So there are two, for the 7th, there are 2 tournaments which are played across Europe. And then you have the top 12 teams, and then the next ones, then there's another tier and a third tier as well. And Germany just managed to win the trophy last year, so we're playing in the top 12 this year. And we were supposed to play this year, and now we're going to play next year, and hoping to stay in there and really get some good competition out of that.
But internationally, in what you've just said, 7s and 15s, that includes everyone but the 6 nations, the home nation, the 4 home nations, and France and Italy. Is that correct?
Yes. Right. I think so. I think you guys do play on a whole nother level. So it's
7s and 15s.
Yes. Well, 7s, it's more teams. So you would also in the 7th circuit, you have also some teams, as I said, like Belgium or Russia and the Netherlands, and so we have more nations who play the 7th circuit than on the 15th.
Right. Okay, I get it. Thanks so much, Anne-Marie. It's been a pleasure. It's been brilliant having you on. We look forward to speaking to you again. We're talking to your colleagues in Denmark and the Czech Republic and hopefully the States in the coming weeks.
Oh yeah, that's great. Thanks for covering us. I mean, it's really great that you have the interest, and good luck with the podcast, with the other interviews.
Thank you very much. Just before you go, if there was a person out there, a lady in Germany, I mean, obviously we'd love our podcast to be international. Hopefully one day it will be. But if there's somebody listening and they're thinking of getting into rugby, what would you say to them?
Please do. You can, if it's the easiest, if you don't know if you have a rugby club around your area and who you can contact, you can look for our German rugby, the Women's Rugby Association, on Facebook, and you can just write me a message, and then we'll have a look. And the way I'm going to say that in German to make sure it's they also find us, and we're the Deutsche Rugby Frauen.
Right. Fantastic. And are you on social media? Could somebody follow you on Facebook or on Twitter?
Not as an individual, but yeah, we do have some, like we as the association or the national teams, we have a Facebook and an Instagram channel. I can definitely send you the links if it helps, and then you can.
Yes, that would be absolutely ideal. Thank you. So we can post those when we post the podcast.
Perfect.
Brilliant stuff. Thanks so much. And hopefully one day we'll meet either in Germany or in London. If you're ever coming across, please do let us know.
Oh, I will.
Wonderful. Excellent. Thank you so much. Enjoy your day. Thank you. Bye now. And thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to come on the show, just drop us a line, Paul at Rugby Uncovered. We'd love to hear from you. Take care. Bye now.